With Creature Commandos up and coming, I thought it was the perfect time to talk about DC's monsters, starting with Nina Mazursky, since as a character, she's really interesting in how she was introduced to comics. 2011 was a very interesting time for DC Comics, as it was mid-rebooting through Flashpoint. Nina wasn't introduced prior to the event nor after New 52, but instead was introduced during the event in an alternate timeline. This would be in one of the handful of spin-off books, Flashpoint, Frankenstein, and the Creatures of the Unknown, which is likely the team roster that inspired the DCU one. With 5 of the members being from this series. Rick Flag Sr. replaces Matthew's character, although both Bride and Phosphorus aren't real members in this series, they're just a part of the series. Which also makes sense as to why Dr. Medusa is absent, since in most variations of the team she's on the team, aside from the one on Flashpoint, outside of a cameo. And I will be honest, I'm kinda sad that she's not in the show because she's my favorite member of the team. But also, Nina Mazursky and Dr. Medusa are fairly similar, and also both are doctors, so I understand why Dr. Medusa will be cut. This series starts in World War II, of this new timeline, with the differences being made due to the timeline how it works, by changing it both backwards and forwards. Thomas Wayne Batman explains it much better than I do. Nina's origin follows as her father Dr. Myron Mazursky would travel to a village in Romania that is inhabited by monsters. He would come with many researchers, although they were very hostile towards the monsters, who were actually really nice people and become friends with Dr. Myron. This being after he's nearly killed by his own research team. On this trip, Dr. Myron would find a young amphibian-like girl who had no one, so Dr. Myron would adopt her, bringing her to America where she would grow up believing that she was his biological daughter. He would train her, try to help her know what it meant to be human, or close to, also training her in some medical fields, although not a doctor herself. This, of course, was Nina. Nina, whom also had to maintain to be in water. Which is more like a fish than an amphibian, but I'm going to go with it. But he would never tell Nina. Instead, he would tell her that apparently she had some unknown rare disease and that she had to be turned into this creature to save her life. I like that that's what he goes with, not the fact that, like, there's metahumans at this point, so maybe just tell her that she's a metahuman, not that you turned her into an amphibian. Although either way, it's lying. Due to World War II, individuals with unique abilities would be drafted, including Myron being forced to assemble the Creature Commandos, including his own daughter, who would be placed as Frankenstein's number 2. Nina was shown to be the compassionate member, even in dark times trying to remain hopeful while the rest of the team were mainly more bleak. In many ways, Nina Mazursky was the heart of this series. Nina would also have a subplot surrounding one of her father's experiments, Wolfpack, who was promised the ability to turn back to human if turned into a werewolf by Myron, but he either lied or was wrong. But Wolfpack and Nina fall in love, resulting in Nina promising Wolfpack to help him finally regain his human side again. However, after World War II, the team of monsters were forced to be put in cryo chambers until 2011, which is when they woke up, during the Amazon Atlantean War. This was because Superman's breakout being from the same shelter they were currently in, and in the process they were awoken. Nina would manage to get closure by discovering her father's still alive, where he'd become clean about his lies, but even though she's heard about it, she still loves him and forgives him. Nina's story ends with her helping Wolfpack being cured of his furry side and deciding to stay in the monster city of Romania, no longer needing to run. Although if you know the Flashpoint story arc, you know that the entire planet ends, meaning she technically does die afterwards. But we don't see that part, it's just a happy ending. This origin seems to be the origin that the DCU version of the character will have. I say this origin because she had a completely different one in the New 52. And in the trailers we see that Dr. Myron is present, which he wasn't a part of the New 52 origin, meaning it's likely the Flashpoint origin we're going with. Nina in the New 52 will be a member of a similar group to Argus, known as S.H.A.D.E, in the Frankenstein series from 2011, where the character now had a more similar origin to the made-up one her father gave her. Now, Nina Mazursky would have a different family conflict. This time her baby daughter would die and her at-the-time husband would blame her, leaving her alone. Which would of course really hurt Nina's feelings. On top of the already trauma of seeing her daughter die. She would throw herself into her work at S.H.A.D.E as a doctor, who would experiment on herself for further research, turning herself into a woman of the lagoon. It also seems implied, possibly, that she didn't know that the process would even work, making it a possible suicide attempt from the sadness from losing her daughter. She would join the Creature Commandos who work closely with S.H.A.D.E. Her role as a member would kind of just dwindle. This version of the character worked more as a researcher for the team opposed to being an actual member, and would assist the team on occasion in battle and on the field, but due to her lacking much power, she's often left out of action scenes or just simply left out in general. Although she is still shown to have heart, she is a lot more aggressive than she was in Flashpoint, which is ironic because Flashpoint is the more apocalyptic storyline, where she's just absolutely compassionate and kind, but here she's a lot more angry. Which makes sense, she has a more tragic backstory now. However, if you're familiar with the character prior to this series, you would probably be very alienated with this version of the character. The most to note from the character would be from more emotional scenes, which, well, I think did work. At the same time, she does feel very out of character from the previous characterization of her character. The biggest I would say from the character would be when a sea monster thought that she was its mother, which was actually a pretty fun plot, although also not really relevant to the long scheme of things. But it was also touching due to the fact that she lost her daughter, and it did get emotional. Nina would also later show up as a member of Stormwatch in the canon-ish Future End series from 2014, although we don't really know much about this version of the character or what is going on here, but she's apparently a member. I do think that Nina Mazursky overall has a lot of potential, and with the upcoming starring role in Creature Commandos, I think she'll very likely reach it. If I am honest, between the two origins, I do prefer the second one, but her first one is also very strong. And overall, the character from the first one is more interesting to me. Although the second one I think had a very strong origin, but not a very strong character focus. Either way, there is something here with the character, and I'm excited to see if the character finally reaches the potential that she, I think, has always had. Also, according to James Gunn, there's already people making inappropriate fan art about Nina Mazursky and inappropriate comments about Nina Mazursky in Creature Commandos. Okay. I mean, to each their own, but I do think that will likely help the character in popularity, even if it's a bit of a raunchy way to get popular as a character, because I think the character has more potential than just being a thirst trap. Although, considering that she's always in water, that is kind of funny. Also, Nina and her teammates of the Creature Commandos are said to have Funko Pops, and as someone that collects Funko Pops, I can already tell you, I'm going to collect them all. Or at the very least, Nina, Phosphorus, and Bride, since those are the three that I like the most. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!